Hello and welcome to Spherical Luminosity's YouTube Live. Today we have an awesome topic, which is what does your future hold? Creating your own story. There's a lot of stories spinning up right now, so it's I feel like a very appropriate topic for this time. So if you could comment in the chat your first name and where you're from, so I can see you. I think some of you have already done that, like Brigitte from Ontario, and Vola from New Jersey, and Kate. I don't know where you're from, but I recognize your name. Welcome. And Joelle is here from Los Angeles. I have to look over here because where I can actually see you over there is like very, very tiny. And Sarah from Duluth, Minnesota, and Lynn from Vancouver. Wow, we have tons of people here. And Emily, I know where you're from, Iowa. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And for those of you who I didn't say hello to personally, it's good to see you all and have you all here. So my name is Karen Cheong. Many of you know me already, and some of you don't. So for those of you who are new, I help to catalyze awakening and a rise in human consciousness by releasing people's blocks at what I refer to as frequency level, amplifying your awareness of the divine within so you can recognize and live the abundance and limitlessness of your true nature as infinite, indestructible consciousness. This is your birthright, and the time for humanity to awaken to this possibility is now, as in really now. And so for those of you who are brand new to frequency work and don't know much about it, I can only give a brief overview in the amount of time I have. So after this, if you want to learn more, I'd recommend checking out episodes 176, and 154 of my vlog podcast, Mastering Your World Through Frequencies, which is on this very same channel. So the first two episodes, number 1 and 176, are all about the fundamentals of frequency work. And number 154 is the top 5 most important things about frequency work. So those are 3 great episodes to watch. And if you want some bonus points, you can also check out episode 131, where we discuss the top 18 questions we get here at Spherical Luminosity. And if you really are very keen, there's also the How It Works section of the website, sphericalluminosity.com, if you want to learn more about what we do specifically. So today, like I mentioned at the very beginning, we're talking about what your future holds and creating your own story. So I'm going to turn the camera over to my fabulous co-host, Iona Malcolm, who is here with me. Oh, exciting. There we are. And she's joining me here for what I think will be a really great discussion. Okay, and just as a reminder for everyone, don't forget there is a free giveaway sometime before the GFC, so stay tuned for that. Okay.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of expected to see your crystal ball.
I have one. It's under my pillow.
What does my future hold?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing that you're not going to be talking about futures and more about how do you create your own story. So, from a point of view of somebody that might be struggling right now, or might be in a lot of fear, surrounded by there's a lot of, like you say, dense stuff coming up, and a lot of people sharing information that seems to be doomsday-ish. So, I mean, what do you say to somebody like that about creating the story? Because it sounds real. I mean, and it looks real. We see the currency dropping, and we see the inflation rising, and I mean, it all looks like this horrible, scary stuff's happening.
Yeah, it looks like it's all going to hell in a handbasket,
Yeah,
right? We
yeah.
have all these natural disasters, and we have extremity in terms of our political system. It's just like everything seems to be going to crap. Right? Yeah, and then it's interesting during this time of extreme polarity, especially now in this month and next month, it's probably going to ramp. And the reason it's going to ramp up is because many of you have heard me talk about this before, but especially September and October, we're getting a real big boost in terms of vibrational level or consciousness level. So some of you know that we're going to Peru next month to do Seeding the Light Codes. And there is a lot of movement happening right now to really help humanity to ascend. So when that happens, it creates a lot of instability in the field and a lot of opportunity because for things that are darker and heavier. Because so I'm going to say this, and just to be mindful of your space and to watch your space. There are darker beings out there who are not acting in the best interest for humanity and don't particularly want consciousness to ascend for humanity. Okay, so how do they stop ascension? Well, they create fear because, well, as you've heard me say before, fear just drops your frequency resonance like a stone. And for those of you, particularly those of you who have been, doing a lot more work and are more experienced with the different frequencies, releasing your distortion patterns, etc., you are actually very valuable because you're used to having a higher frequency resonance. So if they can make you afraid and you drop your frequency resonance, then there's a ripple effect of that. You know what I mean? It just sort of catalyzes more fear in the field. So I'm not saying that you should feel bad about that, but just be aware that how you are matters in terms of your response. So the way to counter that is to not allow them to affect your frequency resonance, to really hold your space. Now, if you don't know what holding your space is, then I recommend watching episode 122, which is all about, it's called Steady She Goes, Holding Your Space. And it's holding your space is not just about, holding your space from other people, meaning people trying to push into your space, trying to control you. It's also from stories, right, that are there to create fear and to create a certain outcome. So to notice, what is the point of this story? Is it there really to inform me? Or is it really putting me in a space of fear? If it puts you in a space of fear, it's not really helpful because things that are dark put out information to create fear because that's what they feed on. They need you to drop your frequency resonance. They need you to start to create in fear to give them more leverage.
Mm.
Okay. So I just mentioned that because I think it's really easy right now with all of this like uncertainty that's like womping up. There's a lot of opportunity at this particular moment for a lot of like, conspiracy theory, like scary stories, negative agenda, all that stuff to percolate through. So to just be mindful of it.
Okay, so let me play devil's advocate a little bit.
Sure.
Okay. I
You can do it a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I can hear the crowds yelling, but these are facts. We know that they're facts. The scientists, the real scientists have shown us, these things are really happening. You can't just, spiritually bypass this. You can't
Yeah.
pretend it's not happening.
Mhm.
So, what do we do with that?
Yes.
That kind of balance between
Mhm.
we are actually being given factual information, which is scary.
Yeah.
And yet, at the same time, we are supposed to maintain this higher resonating frequency at the
Yeah.
highest bandwidth that we are. So, what do we do? Do we just take the information in and say, not in my reality?
Yeah. Well, you can do a number of things. You could do that, right? Where you recognize that you have the authority as co-creator as to what it is that you create in your reality. It's interesting to me because there's so many times when scientists say like X is fact, and then there's a miracle thing that happens where the fact is, dispute, like it's overcome, right? Or whatever. So I would be careful to how much you take that in as true. I'm not saying there aren't certain things that can happen, but just to be aware of how facts are used, how statistics are used, all that stuff, it can be very malleable and it could be deceptive sometimes and manipulated. So I would say the core thing is to recognize how those facts impact you. That's really what it is. So, how does it impact your frequency resonance? So, whether you believe it or not believe it, it's how do you react to it? What do you want to onboard as true for you? And also to watch your distortion around it. Like, why are you afraid? So, if the purpose of that thing is to make you afraid, my question I would ask myself is, what in me is being triggered that I am afraid? Am I afraid? A lot of these conspiracy theories are talking about like, I don't know, all these crazy things, but they all come down to like you're gonna die, basically, right? You're gonna die or be annihilated or something. So the question you have to ask yourself is, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of death? Are you afraid of suffering? Are you afraid of being controlled? Whatever the thing is, whatever your fear thing is. Because ultimately, it's about recognizing that fear. It's not about pretending to be that it's not pretending that it's not there. If you're afraid of dying, I mean, it's a very common fear. You're a human, so it's okay if you have the fear of death. But to acknowledge that you have the fear of death and then to work on the patterns that cause you to be afraid and to not be able to surrender, because death will find you. I mean, if it's your time to die, it's gonna it's gonna happen. I hate to say it, but it's true. So the thing is, like,
you can't hide in the cupboard.
you can't hide in the cupboard, you can't hide under your table, and we're kind of making fun, but it's scary,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh,
People
yeah.
are very viscerally afraid of dying. And so the thing that you have to ask yourself is, why do I have this fear of death?
Mhm.
And can I release that? And can I surrender into it? Because if it's your time, if it is truly your time, there's nothing you can do about it. And I know a lot of people know this intellectually. It's
Yeah.
not like that's a huge stretch or anything like this. And it's still scary. So to be like, oh, it's okay that I have these emotions. Okay. So to not poo-poo them. So you could do that one stance of like, I am co-creating my reality. I have the authority here. What I create in my reality is of my creation. It depends on my frequency resonance. Okay. So that's that whole thing.
Mhm.
The other is to use it as like an acknowledgement of where you are in terms of your own distortion. And why can you not hold your space here? It's not a bad thing. It's just showing you something.
Yeah, it's teaching.
It's just teaching you.
Yeah.
Like, oh, geez. And I'm just telling you, people, September, October, intense. Okay. It's been an intense month all freaking ready. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's so, I don't know what to tell you. It's just, and a lot of people are like emotionally and physically like wobbly right now.
Mhm.
And that's why yesterday in LYB in Living Your Billions, I did anger because I was like, whoa, people are angry and on edge. And you can even see it in the driving. I'm just like, okay. So it's interesting to watch that and be like, okay, that is what's here right now. Okay, how am I in response to this? Why am I being triggered by this? You know, whatever it is, it's there for you to learn about. It's not to ignore it, but to acknowledge how you're in response to it.
Mm. Okay, so now the
Yeah.
next part of
Yes.
this devil's advocate.
Yeah.
So
Go.
you receive this information. It's not
Yeah.
great information.
Yeah.
You don't feel anything. You're kind of neutral.
Mm.
Then you've received it, and it seems factual.
Mhm.
Do we receive that as some kind of synchronistic moment where you've been given a vital piece of information,
Mhm.
and now you have to adapt and pivot so that you can alter your course?
Mhm.
I mean, is that a possibility? And how do we know? I guess it comes right back to your frequency resonance.
Yeah, it comes
doesn't
back to your frequency resonance. I would say that it's if you pivot and alter your course because of fear, that's where I'd be a little bit cautious. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yes.
So let's imagine a piece of information comes in. Okay. And you're like, okay, wow, I'm neutral with it. But it's making me uncomfortable, not because of fear of like something bad happening to me,
Mhm.
but because I'm afraid of this uncertainty. But I'm okay with moving through it. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Because like I have to address my own issues of low self-worth, or I have to make a speech in public, or I have to do something that I'm not accustomed to, that type of thing, you
Yeah.
know, or I have to go somewhere that I'm not used to for some reason. And it's kind of a little bit weird to me because I'm not used to following my intuition like that. That is a different kind of fear than a fear that is being like womped up by someone else. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So to be very mindful of your fear, even if
Mhm.
it's subtle. So meaning if you are neutral and you receive this as factual information, are you responding to this and you're trying to change course because you're trying to get away from whatever it is that this thing is trying to, you know, telling
Mhm.
you about?
Yes.
And now you're going to do all these behaviors to try and avoid it, or avoid the suffering, or avoid the death, or avoid whatever it is that they say? Or are you just slightly uncomfortable because now you're being challenged in a way that, you know, it can cause you to grow? Do you see what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
a different kind of, one's discomfort and one is like fear. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. But there's still a little bit of nuance in there as well. That
Okay.
let's just say I'm at the airport,
Mhm.
and this random stranger comes up to me, bumps into me, and he gives me the exact flight I'm on, where I'm going, and at what time, and tells me, don't get on the flight.
Mm. Oh, I see. This random stranger.
Yeah, and he knows my flight number. He knows where I'm going. He knows when I'm going to
Huh.
land, and he says to me, don't get on the flight.
Okay.
So now I'm standing there. I'm shocked,
Right.
right? But what am I doing? You know, do I just check my resonance and go, okay, do I feel fear? Am I going to get on this plane? That's the nuance that I'm getting at. You know,
Yes.
we get these pieces of information
Yeah.
randomly that just come into our emails,
Yeah.
or some person that we bumped into drops a book and it's all about this whatever,
Yeah.
and it's pretty scary or it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Maybe not scary, but it's kind of, whoa, that's
Yeah.
dark. But
Yeah.
you don't really feel fear.
Yeah.
But then there's a piece of information there, and now I'm left standing and, whoa, well, what do I do with this piece of information now?
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. So what I would say is, okay, so in your first example of the man coming up to you,
Yeah.
okay, and knowing all this stuff. First of all, it's kind of creepy.
Yeah. It would be hard to ignore, right?
I'd be like, whoa. I guess. So what I would do is scan yourself first to see how clear you are. And so meaning become aware of your body, become aware of your connection to source, be aware of your breath, be aware of yourself, be aware of your fear. Then scan the other person. How does that feel to you? So as opposed to just being like, oh my God, this information is terrifying, be like, wait a minute. Who the hell are you?
Yeah.
And just scan. Does that feel congruent to you?
Yes.
That's what I would do.
Yes.
And, it's funny because when you scan the other person, we forget to do that, when we go into fear.
I know.
We only focus on our fear. And then we're all like, oh my God, I've done
can
it too.
only feel
You
the
only feel your
fear.
fear. It's like running through
Yeah.
your body, right? And then you forget, wait, what? Wait, who's the harbinger of this fear? Who's the messenger? Who are you?
Yeah.
So, I would ask that question,
Yeah.
whether the messenger of fear is an email, a video, a person, a disembodied being, doesn't matter, whatever it is, scan. Does this feel like it's in congruence with your source?
Yeah. Even when I was asking you the questions, I didn't even think about the other person.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. So scan and just see how you feel about it. And just notice yourself. Because when you do that, like, it's interesting. When you feel another person, that's why I asked you to notice your fear first. Because it can throw us off, right? Because now we're like, oh my God, oh my God. That's why I ask you to please remember the basics, to remember your center, right? To come back into your center, into the present moment of time. Be aware of your body, be aware of your connection to pure source. Then
use the tools.
Yep, that's what I would do.
Okay, so let's pivot for that. Coming from the use your tools, frequency resonance, how do we create our own story? I'm guessing you're going to say it's the same kind of thing.
It is kind of the same kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it's funny.
I mean, why do we want to create our own story? I mean, it makes sense. Of course, I want to create all these amazing, lovely, abundant things.
Yeah.
And is that what you're talking about? That, there's a way to do that? Or
Yeah.
is it just a discussion around creating your story and how to check out what your story is?
Both. It is both, I think. So it's like, what causes you to create the story that you do about your life? What are the limiting possibilities? What, the things that limit you about you, right? And that's what distortions are. I mean, you all know this, or many of you have been doing frequency work, know it's your distortion patterns. So your limiting beliefs, your thoughts, your emotions, those things are a reflection of the distortions that you have. So you release the distortion, you release those beliefs. Okay. So as I said, we're jumping right now in resonance in September and October. And why am I mentioning this when you've just asked me the other direct question? Because in this jump towards your higher degree of resonance, you're going to be faced with the things that challenge you the most in order for you to clear them so that you can come into a higher level order of consciousness, because the leap can be really big. You can't make a leap if you're carrying like 50 pounds of sandbags with you.
Yeah.
It's hard, right? You're like, oh my God, so heavy. Can't jump. You know what I mean?
It just reminds me of my exercise session. Yeah.
Exactly. So do you see what I'm saying? It's very
do.
difficult with the weight. So noticing right now, if you're being triggered in fear, and if your story is becoming more infiltrated with fear of like what the possibility of your future is, being doomsday-y. So ask yourself, okay, well, why is my story being influenced by this right now?
Yeah.
So where's the self-doubt coming from? Where's the fear coming from? Like all that stuff. Because right now, it's funny. It's not like you're being tested, because that's the wrong thing to say. It's more like you're being given the opportunity to see where your fear is and to not bypass it, because it's going to keep showing up and showing up and showing up and showing up until you deal with it.
Okay, so what do you mean in that moment to not bypass it? What's the alternative?
You can be like, well, I'm really just neutral. I'm not really affected. It doesn't really bother me. I'm just, assessing all the situation, meaning you don't feel the fear. You don't acknowledge the fear underneath your response.
That's what you mean by bypassing?
Yes.
Yeah. What's the alternative?
To bypassing me.
Yes. Sorry.
Sorry. So to recognize that you're scared, right? So the doomsday things have come into your space. You're like, whoa, there's part of me that believes this. Why am I so triggered by this fear right now?
Yeah.
Like what am I afraid of? Because ultimately, right? For most humans, it comes down to a fear of dying or a fear of suffering and then dying.
Yes.
Some kind of combination of that.
Mhm.
Or somebody you love dying. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of like those three are like the big ones. And so if that's what's coming up for you, then to really acknowledge it. It's scary, okay? I'm not saying it's easy. And in this time, there are a lot of people dying like unexpectedly and like weird circumstances and weird accidents, like young people and healthy people and like not just young people. I mean, you can have healthy older people, whatever. People who like out of the blue in these weird circumstances are now just dead.
Yeah.
So, okay, it's happening right now. And so I'm not suggesting you be freaked out by the fact that it could happen to someone you love. And if it is happening to you, ask yourself, why are you freaked out about it?
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So all of this is throwing certainty up in the air, right? It's like this illusion that we have that everything is safe and controlled and okay, and our lives are like protected and good, and we want everything to be 100% successful and easy and comfortable. Life isn't like that. Okay. And so the thing is to acknowledge those emotions and to be with them and to release them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So coming back to creating your story,
Yes.
that is going to be part of the process, I'm guessing, because we've talked about this in the past. The reflection of what's happening inside is your story on the outside, right?
Yes.
Would you say that's
totally
correct
true.
way?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if the outside manifestation, I'm not enjoying it, I'm not liking it, then it is about going into, okay, where am I holding me back?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me because I've watched this happen. So a lot of people will not stay present to deal with the stuff that they don't want to deal with. They'll sort of start to go further and further out. Like it's caused by like weirder and weirder things. You know what I mean? It's like maybe it's like an entity or a dark person or something that's happened on a different dimensional plane, or it's because of this and that and the other thing that my life is so screwed up.
Okay,
do you
so
see what
they're
I'm saying?
blaming it on something.
They're blaming it on something else because they can't stay present with the fear right now in you at this moment of whatever is. Do you see what I'm saying?
And saying, this is my fear.
This is my fear. This is what I've been creating. This is something that I have not dealt with. I need to
Yes.
deal with it now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's going to be the big major step. If you want to change your story,
Yep.
then you have to own it.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
All right.
Own your story. Own where you have limitation. You're like, whoa, I believe that. Wow. Okay, that's a big limiting belief right there.
Yeah.
Right? Like the only way that I can be successful, for example, is I have to work really hard. Or, you know what I mean? Or whatever your thing is
Yeah.
about story of like what you experience in your life. Like the only way for me to have a partner that loves me is fill in the blank.
So these are the rule sets that you talk about
Yeah.
that you've either brought from your lineage or culturally or okay. So assess all them
Yes,
as well.
exactly. And just notice the stories you're telling yourself and the stories that you're like, oh, that's totally true. It's totally true. And you know what I mean? Just to be mindful of those things right now.
And everything that comes out your mouth, right?
Yeah.
Like you say, the things that are in the back of the head that have been in there since you were a little baba.
Yeah.
Because your culture has put them in there. Oh, or am I just blaming my culture?
But it's there as a distortion, though.
Yeah.
But it is there as a
Yes,
distortion
yeah,
from culture.
I've let it take space in my head.
Yeah, exactly. And then to realize that you have let it take space in your head because it has been there, and then that you also have the authority and the power to release it.
Yes.
So when you create your own story, what's amazing is as you rise in your frequency resonance, the creation of your story, I know this is going to sound odd. It's not like when your resonance is low and you're desperately trying to get another story because one you live right now is shit. Okay. Sorry to swear, but you know what I mean? Like you hate it, you rebel against it, you resist it, it sucks. Right. So it's not that can happen at the lower resonance, but as you rise in your frequency resonance, I'm not saying you don't have desire. You do, but it's less like you have a desire for a particular story.
Yes.
Does that make sense? It's more like you have this sort of joyfulness and the surrender to what the story can be. And it's sort of like the story is something that kind of not exactly comes through you, but you know what I mean? It's like you kind of get to live the possibility of what the story is in a sense that it may not be something that you directly imagined. Like, I'm going to have the pink Cadillac and the matching leather seats and the whatever and the whatnot. You get something instead that's different but somehow makes you like maybe you get an ATV and you like ride around with goggles and your hair flying around the wind and you just laugh like a maniac because that's really super freaking fun. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you never realized that that would be fun. And maybe you're scared at the beginning of driving the ATV because you're like, whoa, I don't even know how to use this thing. But eventually it's like freaking amazing.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the story is something less like narrowly defined by you and more defined by your frequency resonance and your ability to surrender in and follow the story that you are compelled towards because it's a higher resonating story.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
I remember being in a place exactly like you're talking about, where the story was painful.
Yeah.
And no matter how I felt like I was trying, it was never changing. And I just wanted this to happen and this to
Yeah.
happen. I want, you know.
Mhm.
And then somewhere along the line, just doing the work, just doing the work, just doing the work. And I mean, there were lots of moments of self pity and this isn't working, you know.
Yeah.
I just kept doing it. Something in me knew. Then it wasn't so much that the story changed so dramatically that I knew something had changed.
Yeah.
It was the pain of the story disappeared. Suddenly wasn't there anymore. Suddenly I wasn't feeling sorry for myself and I was at ease with what was happening. But at the same time as I was having this ease, the story was changing. So
Yeah.
there was like this parallel movement of me letting go the pain and the fight and the resistance and just going, "Oh, yeah, just gotta keep doing that. Just keep doing that." And then this release of needing to have this outcome because this is so painful,
Yeah.
to suddenly, I'm okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm all right. Look at me. That's cool. But at the same moment, the story shifted.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, look at that. Woo, this is happening.
Yeah. Exactly.
It was a little dance,
Dance.
It
Yeah.
was-
Yeah. I feel like it's just like different levels of surrender, that
Mhm.
happen along the way. And you're right, when we are in the pain and we are in the scarcity and we are in the suffering and we are in all those things that are really difficult to be with, we desperately want something else.
Mhm.
Very much so. So I realize that saying like, your story is going to shift and surrender. I mean, I understand that some people just might want to slap us and that's fine. I mean, I get it. I might want to just slap me at the time too. But um, at the same time, when it starts to shift when you do the work and all of a sudden, like internally, you let go of that need to have that thing that you desperately want to
Mhm.
show you that you're okay.
Yeah.
And somehow you start to feel okay, even though you don't have that thing.
Mhm.
And then something changes some more. You know what I mean? It's kind of like
Totally.
this thing, what happens. And for me, because I was such a control freak, it was like an internal like hold. It's like I really want this outcome and then I want this outcome.
Mhm.
And I'd be like, oh,
Mhm.
and I realized somewhere along the way that I started to do this, and I didn't I still had it, but it wasn't so like dire, and then I felt sort of like okay and then good. It was okay that I didn't have those things. But
Yeah.
really, not just because I was trying to be okay with it,
No.
but truly I was just like, oh, it's okay that I don't have that thing. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I often remember the lack of resistance to what was actually happening.
Yes.
And it was like, okay, this
Yeah.
is happening.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna have to poco a poco, step by
by step.
step, work through this
Yeah.
until it's not this anymore.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And it's kind of a strange, yeah, for me, it was an internal loosening, just like you did. And at the beginning, it feels slower. At least it did for me.
Mhm.
I was just like, oh my God, never gonna end. You know what I mean? At least that's what it felt like to
Yeah.
me. I know, exactly. I was just like, oh, it's just like freaking never gonna end. And then it's sort of that despair shifted.
Yeah.
That was one of the big shifts. But it's funny, when the despair leaves, you don't notice it not being there anymore.
No.
It's the weirdest thing. So you had the same experience.
Same. It's just when I saw my reality changing, that's when I realized, oh, see, I'm different.
Yeah, I'm different. It's okay. Like I've let go somehow
Yeah.
internally. But it's strange. Like I think as humans we're funny. We notice when we're in pain and then we don't notice when we're not in pain.
Yeah.
Is that I don't know if that's double negative, but you know what I mean?
I
Like
do. I
yeah.
just had the same conversation with my kids. I said, we're really quick to notice what we haven't got.
Yeah.
We're not really quick at noticing what we have got.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. It's totally true.
Mm.
So I feel like part of the creating your own story is to watch your attachment to your story of like
Mhm.
what it means if you were to get this. when I first started manifesting, doing that process of manifestation, creation, manifestation, I really was attached to getting a certain thing that I was creating because it meant something about me. It meant that I could.
Yeah.
It meant that I was powerful, that I was advanced, that I was fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And that's what it meant. So there's all this pressure because, like, oh my God, that's what it means.
Yeah.
But it's on by doing frequency work and releasing the distortions. It doesn't, the meaning drops away. It's
Yeah.
not so important anymore.
Yeah.
And then that's when your story can become clear and actually, to me, more joyful. And you can enjoy your story more because there's less pressure. It's kind of like you have kind of an idea of where the story is going, but you don't. And there's part of you that trusts the unfolding of the
Yeah,
story.
and it's kind of exciting.
It's kind of exciting as opposed to like only dreadful and like filled with despair and like, oh crap, and more scarcity. It changes.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what I mean by creating your own story. As your resonance rises, how you create your story will shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, because sometimes the image of creating your story is that you're sitting there making this thing happen.
Yeah.
And actually, for me, anyways, it's an internal process of just allowing me to let go and to let go the resistance and to surrender with strength, be fully in whatever I need to be in, and then allow that to move and shift and let go all these ideas of what I think it should look like and how I should be and what I should be able to do.
Yeah.
Should.
I know there's so much shoulding. And then you add to it right now, for many of us, we're very fatigued.
Yeah.
We're tired, sleep is being disrupted, or you wake up and you're still tired, or whatever is happening. Right? There's a lot of processing that I've been mentioning to all the different things for all of you in all of our programs. You know this. There's a lot happening right now that your physical body is desperately trying to integrate.
Yeah.
So please give yourself self-care. Like, go get chiropractic, go get massage, go get acupuncture, go get whatever it is that you get. Put yourself in a cryotherapy room, whatever you need to do to make yourself feel like more like held in terms of your life force. Because, there's a lot of fatigue right now too.
It can feel overwhelming at the moment. As well.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like, and when you have that filter of fatigue, what you create in terms of your story is crappier.
Yeah.
Because you feel crappier. So it's really important right now and the ironic thing, the scary ironic thing is that many people right now are really busy. So you have a lot of busy, right? And you need more time. So it's just like, I can't handle it. So to be like, okay, I am really busy. I have a lot on my plate and I really need this hour of self-care here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to preserve this hour. I'm needing it, or I need to go to bed by this time, or I need to eat better in this time, or whatever it is for you. Okay, to do that thing, to give yourself care so that when you're creating your story, which you're doing unconsciously and consciously,
and every moment,
in every single moment, that you're doing it from the most resource state energetically that you can. And if you want to watch more about how you co-create, then there's an episode that I can't remember the number of, called Cracking the Code of Co-Creation, that you and I did.
Yes.
So if you want to know more about how to manifest and how you're manifesting in every moment, then I would watch that if you are not familiar with what we're talking about.
Okay, so I feel like I've kind of hogging the conversation here, and I'm pretty sure there's loads of questions.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
there is.
Yes. Okay. So there are questions. We're pivoting the questions. And if you have a question, Chris is requesting that you put the word question at the beginning of your question so he can see that it's a question. I'm not sure where to look. So he can see that it's a question. That way it's easier for us to see it. Okay, so we're going to start with a question. There's an idea that we have already created our lessons and life before we came here. What is the truth in this, and how does it relate to creating our own story? Yeah, there is that whole idea, that conversation around destiny, and that you have a destiny, it's preordained, and that it's your fate, and then that's what's there for you, and
that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is like your discussion that comes down to like how much free will do we have, right? And how much is like destined for you.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to back up and say that the amount of free will that you have really depends on how high your frequency resonance is. Because at the beginning, honestly, we don't have that much free will because we have so much distortion. So we think we have free will, but we're actually running the patterns, the distortion patterns that are running through us.
So we're like a puppet to the
We're-
distortion
Yeah,
patterns.
we're a pattern. Yeah, exactly. Extraordinarily well said. So we're a puppet to the distortion patterns, thinking that we have more freedom than we really do.
Mm.
You do have some, though. Okay, I
Yes.
just want to underscore that you have some, and it's up to you to use it. So now, especially for those of you guys who are listening to this right now, you know how the world works in terms of distortion patterns. You're aware of what it is, and if you don't, watch episode 1 and 176. You figure out what distortion patterns are. Okay, so as you rise in your free will and as you clear yourself of distortion patterns, it's this fascinating amount of liberation where you start to be able to transcend things like, you know, how people will go to astrology and they'll say all these things about you, or there's all these different paradigms of like who you are, like how you're defined and how you are in the world. You start to be able to transcend those things.
Yeah.
Because you recognize your authority as co-creator and you actually can live it. So you recognize, okay, well, that's my tendency, my predisposition in my chart, but it's also not necessarily totally and utterly my truth.
Yeah.
So I can shift things. We start to be able to transcend that because at a higher level of consciousness, you recognize your ability to co-create. You can co-create anything, right? Truly. Like the power that we have to co-create is infinite, really, especially as you ascend. So to go back to this question with regards to destiny. So are there key points in your life where you have agreement with other beings for you to like meet so that you can rise in your consciousness? Yes, most of us have that. Didn't say everyone. I said most of us.
Yeah.
Where you have key moments in time where you meet certain people, and if you hadn't met them, your trajectory of your life would have been very different.
Oh, yeah.
And in that moment, you still have free will.
Yes.
You have the choice to be like, I'm going to follow this person, like, or not follow them, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, collaborate with them, be in relationship with them, learn from them, be guided from them, whatever, fill in the blank by them. And in that moment, you have this choice to whether rise in your resonance or to continue on the timeline that you'd been on before.
Yeah.
And so, yes, those things are pivotal. Is your destiny set in stone? No, not at all. Because you have free will and you're constantly making choices, which then impact your frequency resonance, the timeline you're in, and the stories you get to create. So that's my take on things. And the wonderful thing about clearing your distortion patterns is you become freer and freer and freer and freer. And the story of your life is clearer, meaning you get to choose it or co-create it in a different way that's not based on a distortion of lack or oppression or whatever it is that your lineage, your culture, your religions, whatever, have created for you. Yeah. Okay. Like, where are we now? All right. So, I'm waiting for Chris to put the next question up. He's reading the question, furiously reading questions.
There's a lot of them.
Are you asking me to choose one? Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking over here and not at the screen. I'm so sorry. Chris is like, hello, why are you not answering this? Okay, I'm sorry about that, people. I had a space cadet moment. He's like, hello. Anyway, if we aren't always on one frequency, are we jumping from reality, outcome to outcome all the time? Well, it depends on your frequency resonance. So if you are holding your 0 point, which if you don't know what that is, I recommend watching episode 151 or 2 called The Foundation of the Reality, the 0 point of space and time. So some people are being pulled from reality to reality, and it can be really dark and really heavy and really terrifying because they can't center in the 0 point of space and time. And so they get pulled out of different realities and they can't tell the difference between one reality and the other. And they're totally inconsistent and it's terrifying. Okay. And it can, it's just terrible. So that can happen. And so the thing is, part of the reason that I harp on about the 0 point of space and time is because the more firmly that you sit in the 0 point of space and time, the more stable you are in it, and you won't get pulled out into different realities or different. Okay, so just so you know, a reality is just a different space-time resonance. That's it. Okay, so you can stay in one that serves you better, one that is of a higher resonating order rather than pulled into darker ones. So some people do have trouble with staying in that 0 point. It can be very scary. The more you can hold in that center point, the more you have the authority to influence your reality, and the more that you get to choose to rise in your resonance and have better opportunities to choose from. And that's why some people have real trouble with, you know, not just experiencing different dark realities, but having things like entities or dead people coming into their reality, right? So the more you can hold your 0 point, the stronger and better off you will be. So hopefully that answers that question. And this time I will notice the question in the middle of the screen instead of trying to read all of them. Okay, so so uh, okay, let's do Grace. How cautious should we be when working with practitioners, whether that's for body work or emotional or spiritual work? What if someone is not clear from entities, for example, but has skills? That's a really great question. Okay, I personally would not want to receive work from somebody who is not clear enough um, to receive work from. So, meaning if they have entities, if they have darker things around them, even if they have like heavier distortion patterns they haven't dealt with, then you might want to be aware of who it is that you're receiving care from. Now, I didn't say be afraid of them. I just said be aware of who you're receiving care from. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is if you still want to receive care from them, even though they seem darker to you, my question would be, what is it that you fear that you're going to lose if you don't receive the care from them? Right? That would be my question. What are you afraid of losing? What are you afraid of missing out on? And I would say that, there are so many practitioners these days who do all kinds of work, who are lovely and who have done the work to clear themselves. That there's quite a bit of choice, I would say. I would say that there are people who claim certain things about certain people, and I would be mindful of who's saying that and to check in with your own authority to see if that feels true to you. To pay attention to if you're in the person's presence, or if you're receiving a session from them and you sort of get this like not great feeling about it, to follow that instinct and to not continue, right? Because often we're afraid to, disrespect somebody, or we're uncomfortable because we're taught to be polite or nice or whatever. But if it feels not good to you, then leave, or hold your space and leave, or whatever permutation, would you say? So I would say that given the number of practitioners that there are, I don't think you need to receive care from somebody who feels really dark and skeevy to you. Um, if somebody, so it's funny, for your last question, what if somebody is not clear from entities but has skills? Where did the skills come from? That's what I'd like to know, if they have entities in them. Because the darkness can manipulate quite a lot of things. So I would ask, wouldn't you ask that question?
Oh, I'd be definitely.
Yeah.
Are the skills from pure source or not?
Yeah, exactly.
That's my bottom question.
Yeah, exactly. So just because they have skills, I mean, why do you feel you need them, first of all? And secondly, there's a self-sacrifice pattern there. It's like, if I'm going to have this, then I have to give up that. You don't, actually, right? There are many practitioners who can do many things these days. So to me, it's like, if they're not in alignment with pure source, I'm not saying they should be like crystalline clear and have no distortion. They're human. We're all humans. You have stuff, like you have ego stuff to deal with. And I mean, entities are very dark. So to me, if that's what's running the show, then probably not the greatest idea to receive care from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that question.
Hmm?
I like that question.
Which one?
How to work.
Yeah, let's do that one. And then we'll go to the GFC. How do you work with fear?
Mhm.
That's a really great question. Well, the first is to recognize when you're in it. I think that's the first thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny when we're in fear, sometimes we don't even realize we're in it. So a powerful practice that I've used a lot, even for myself, is I'm afraid. So if you name it, you're like,
Mhm.
I'm afraid right now. You're like, okay, somehow, even by naming it, gives you distance.
Yeah.
So that's something that I use often is I'll name the fear. The other thing is that to give yourself distance from your thoughts and emotions, right? That's why living your brilliance is so critical right now because it's a dynamic program. It allows you to work through a lot of stuff that's coming up in the collective, including fear and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
the higher your resonance becomes consistently, the more you do have space from your thoughts, your emotions. And you can be like, it's okay that I'm having fear. You're not, it's funny. A lot of people have fear of fear.
Yes.
Isn't that funny?
Yes.
We're scared of being afraid.
Uh-huh.
And so we're like, oh my God, we're scared. And so and I'm not belittling it. I mean, I've been
No.
there. I think everybody has, right?
It's fascinating.
Yeah. So once you have distance from it, though, because you are aware of yourself from a higher level order, you're like, it's okay that I'm afraid. I'm having a human experience of fear. Okay. All right. I'm just going to let myself have it. And then, all right, now that I've had it, where is the fear coming from? Where is the distortion that's causing it? That's the thing to ask,
Mhm.
and then to then do the work,
Yeah.
Would you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I remember being in fear and the gripping.
Oh, it's
It
terrible.
it
Yeah.
gripped me. I couldn't even get the space.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it happened in the end, but I just decided, okay, I can't seem to get escape for this fear. I just can't seem to get rid of it. I can't seem to escape from it, which is probably part of the distortion I was trying to
Yeah,
escape it.
yeah.
So in the end, I just went, okay, I'm gonna do it scared.
Yeah.
I am in fear and I can't get through this any other way but except
Except for
for
being
going
afraid.
through it
Yeah.
and being in fear and taking the next step in fear and the next step in fear until I get used to being in the fear to the point where the fear started to leave.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, okay. It was kind of a aha moment,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I tell my kids the same thing. If you can't do something to get the space like you're talking about,
Hmm.
just face the fact that you're gonna have to do it in fear.
Fear. Yeah. To be okay with the fear.
Be okay doing it in fear.
Fear. Yeah. And then to realize that, um, yeah, it's funny. Sometimes you almost have to, there's a point where it's going to sound funny. So I hope it's not taken out of context, but fear becomes your ally.
Yeah.
Your relationship with it shifts where you're like, it's not like you're like, fear, that's great. Bring on fear. It's amazing. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is your relationship to fear will shift
Mhm.
where you realize, okay, ooh, I'm nervous right now, or I'm afraid, or
Mhm.
I'm whatever. And it's like, what is this showing me? And I'm going to do, and he's like, and the other thing that for me is like, can I be in this fear?
Mm.
Can I just be in it and not be afraid that it's going to overwhelm me?
Mhm.
That's part of that shift in that to know that you're strong enough
Totally.
to be in that fear and
Uh-huh.
it doesn't paralyze you to the point that you can't do anything. What
And
were
I
you gonna
would
say?
add to that
Mhm.
that I only knew that after I had gone through it.
Yeah.
So it was strengthening for
Yes.
me in the end. At the time, it felt awful.
Yes.
And I felt overwhelmed and I felt paralyzed.
Yeah.
I felt nothing. I couldn't, like, I had no control of anything.
Yeah.
My whole body was overtaken by this thing called fear. But until I'd gone through it, it was only then did I realize I'm actually stronger than it.
Yes.
And that was the gift.
Yes.
Like you say, it became an ally. It's like,
Yeah.
no, I can do this.
Yes.
I know I can.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's a funny thing, sometimes growth is not comfortable.
No.
And often it isn't. And the thing is, we don't like discomfort as humans.
Mhm.
It doesn't feel good to us. And being scared is not comfortable.
Mm-mm.
It's terrible actually. And it's to walk through the fire of it,
Mhm.
basically. And like you said, and we all have our own journeys through it.
Yeah.
It is triggered by different things. And the thing is to know at some point as you walk through it, meaning not try to like get it away from you, but
Mhm.
actually be with it as you move through whatever it is towards whatever you're trying to do. That what you said, you are stronger than it, because the fear of the fear is that we are not stronger than it is more powerful than us. That's the power dynamic. And so as you rise above it, you're like, I am not afraid of this because I know I can move even though I have it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I might still have it, but I can still move
Yeah.
faster and stronger
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah, exactly. It's true. It's kind of a funny thing. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay, people. So that is all the time that we have for questions. I'm going like super long because we have to do the GFC, right? That's what we're all here for. So before we get to the GFC, we're going to do a giveaway. And it's a really good giveaway. At least I think it's a good giveaway.
I think it's an amazing giveaway. Can I put my name in there?
So the giveaway is Living Your Brilliance for the month of October, which is an awesome giveaway. Not only because Living Your Brilliance is amazing anyway, but because we will be in Peru when we are giving Living Your Brilliance. And so for those of you who want to um, be in the frequency resonance of the work that we're doing in Peru and the pivotal jump that I feel we will be making, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, then Living Your Brilliance is a way of experiencing that through the work. And so Peru itself is a spectacular place, which is very catalytic. And what we're called there for is very much of a higher level order. And so you'll get to experience some of that through Living Your Brilliance. So it's really, I think, an awesome opportunity to do Living Your Brilliance um, um, if you're not getting to go to Peru. Oh, all right. So I'm being instructed that if you would like to be selected with our handy dandy super technology oil thingy, you have to type in hashtag LYB. Hashtag LYB. So if you type hashtag LYB, then you will be electing for the fancy dancy technology thing to scroll through you. If you don't type hashtag LYB, then you won't have the opportunity to be chosen. And also, I'm looking at Chris because he seems to be wanting to tell me something. Oh, so I'm going to give you about 30, like, I'm just going to give you, hopefully you guys are typing this in, right? Like if you want it. And if you already have LYB, you're a subscriber, because, we do have a monthly subscription program of 5% off. And some of you do sign up for LYB. So if you're already in LYB, then you would get a credit for this month. Okay. So if the magical handy dandy technical thingy chooses you and you're ready to do LYB, then you would get the refund for LYB for October. Okay. So, all right. So anyway, so it would be hashtag, which means the little pound sign, LYB, not the word hashtag, pound sign, LYB, right? Should I say it?
Looks like knots and crosses.
Yeah, exactly. So LYB, hashtag LYB, and you will be signed up for it. Okay. So do you feel like, okay, I've been talking, so now Chris is going to run the fancy thingy. Woo! It's going to do its thing now, right? Okay, wait. Chris is going to share his screen and then do the thingy.
Do the thingy.
Oh my
I'm
God.
gonna come in front of the camera and dance.
I know. Oh my God. All right. So, oh, giveaway tool. All right. Okay.
Oh, I love it when it does that.
Woo! It's so exciting.
I saw my mother's name in there.
Rosy Parker! You are the lucky winner. Woo!
Nice one.
All right. That was fun. Okay, I like the little thingy. It's kind of like, ooh, it's going to happen. Okay. All right, people. So now we have done our little LYB giveaway, or our pretty big LYB giveaway. Chris is handing me, because I go soft. He's aware. Do you all know, this is a funny, I don't know if this is a funny story or not, but we used to have this Chris used to have this telescoping pole that he would call the Karen prod, and when I got too quiet, he would like poke me
From across the
Yeah,
room.
across the room. You're like, speak up. So anyway, no. Karen prod. Now you've seen it live. I wasn't making up. See. All right, people. We are going to get into the most important part of this, which is the GFC. Okay. So here we go. Mm-hmm. And camera, maybe we should put the camera on. What's the other? On me. All right, guys, here we go. All right, this has to do with raising your frequency resonance, dropping out of fear so you can create your own story, right, in the highest resonating possibility. Here we go. Let's rise together, settling in, becoming aware of your body. And as you become aware of your body, becoming aware of the weightedness of your body, as it sinks into whatever is supporting you. Being aware of the texture of whatever is supporting you, the heat of your body reflected against it. Noticing your entire body, either from head to toe, toe to head, perhaps from front to back or back to front, side to side, inside out, outside in, however you're aware of your entire body. Notice if that's hard for you. If you're particularly fidgety or agitated and you can't settle, please get up and move very slowly. So you can either pace slowly, obviously don't hurt yourself, or you can do something like standing squats slowly. Bringing your attention to your heart space in the center of your chest in your nipple line. Asking yourself the question, how can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source? And that question again is, how can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source? And as you ask yourself that question, whether you're aware of it or not, your higher self responds by quickening your own frequency resonance. So you're all taking this running jump. And I'm going to catch you on the top end of your jump and pull your frequency resonance up, irrespective of where you began. Good. Bringing your attention to your heart space in the center of your chest and right at the base of your groin. Okay, so this has to do with other people's stories about your future, what they want you to believe, what they feel is right for you, some darker agendas of control. Sometimes it's well intentioned and it's still controlling. Okay? So, mixed in with this is obligation, responsibility, who you should be for them to be comfortable. Okay, whole mixed bag here. Keeping your attention in those two spots, please. Noticing if your mind wants to wander. If it does, firmly bring it back to these 2 points, please. There we go. hmm Bringing your attention right into that space of the entire solar plexus, okay, which is between your belly button and the base of your sternum. It's interesting. Sometimes we don't even know that someone is trying to shape our story. We just feel fear, or you feel pressure to do something, or you feel guilted into what's right, or whatever the thing is. That's an emotional response. Okay, so now all of a sudden you don't have you don't even know what your story is. You just have the emotion. Hang on, giving you distance from the emotion. Okay, so you can see what's behind. To see with clarity what's happening. Now, I'm not suggesting that everyone who tells you something has a malintention and wants to do you harm. I didn't say that. What I said was to become clear, okay, on just what's the agenda here. Sometimes people are very loving and still feel you should do something for your best interest, and that's okay. You can assess that and see if it's really true for you, but to have the distance and the clarity to be able to assess what is true for you. Especially with those we love the most, because we want them to be happy. We love them. So as we're clarifying this, amplifying this, what is true for you? It's okay if you don't know that in the moment, but to have this amplifying, so you're like, wait a minute, do I really want this? Even if it's a day from the time that it happens, or a week, 2 weeks, it's still there. Mhm. Excellent. Okay. Bringing your attention into the heart space, please. This has to do with fear. As humans, whenever we are faced with the unknown, for most of us, our instinctive response is fear. Okay. So this is a huge pattern here. So I'm not suggesting that you be cavalier and pretend that you're not afraid. That's not what I'm suggesting. It's to be aware that you even are afraid. And then choosing what to do with that fear. We all have our things that we're afraid of. Good. Better. Imagining, sensing, feeling, becoming aware of your brilliance from deep within, allowing it to expand out through the very center of you, out in all directions. Yeah. Okay. Bringing your attention to the back of your neck along your spine, in addition to your heart space. So I'm going to make this little adjustment, okay? And it's going to mm, agitate you when someone is trying to control you through the use of fear. So I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm not doing this to be mean. I'm not doing this to disempower you. I'm doing it so you notice, okay? And you're like, wait a minute. What's happening here? Why do I feel afraid? What's the agenda? Why is someone trying to control me? Is someone trying to control me? All that sort of stuff, okay? So we're just going to agitate this pattern so you notice it and you don't just slip unconsciously into the fear response. Good. Yep. And right on the surface of the heart, the front of the heart space, and right in the front of the throat. All right. I'm going to release this layer of the fear of fear, meaning that it's stronger than us. Now, some of you on a spectrum where you know that you are greater than your fear. Okay. So if that's you, that's wonderful. And this will empower you even more. Okay. To have your fear be something that's constructive for you and to highlight where your fear is still destructive for you, okay? Where you can slip into it more. So, for example, if you're aware of that in yourself, and you're aware that you're stronger than your fear for yourself, but for example, you have fear for the loss of loved ones, that's like the scarier thing for you. Okay, that's what I mean. So it will modulate for you, right? So here we go. Softening or dissolving, melting into or dropping into the space. There we go. Yeah. Excellent. Wow. Good. So, whether that fear of fear is general or specific, like the fear of being rejected or looking stupid or loss, doesn't matter. We're still afraid of it. So, right now, we're shifting our attention to the base of that lower back half of the brain, right in the brainstem, and right in the heart space, please. So, this is somewhat specific. Where is the fear in what you're creating of your own story? Where are you limiting yourself because you're afraid? To lose something, whether it's a sense of ease or comfort of what is known, relationships being a certain way, having certain relationships, okay? A job, whatever, it doesn't matter, whatever the thing is. So it may not be now, it may be in the next few hours or days, perhaps weeks for some of you, where you start to see where you have fear in the story you're creating of your life that you hadn't noticed before and which limits you. So you can release it. Yeah. Deep in the heart space, please. Right. So we're going to release this fear that you'll never be free of your fear, that you'll never be free to create the story that you want, that something will happen, that you'll run out of time, that you won't have the opportunity, that whatever, it's like a pipe dream and it won't happen for you, whatever the thing is for you. Okay? Mhm. Yeah. Imagining, sensing, feeling, becoming aware of a brilliant blue that washes out through the heart space in all directions. Yeah. So a really large group of you is feeling this expansive stillness. Which is lovely because it's a resonance that's beyond fear. Deepening this a little bit more. Good. Deep in the center of the heart space. And deep in the very center of your solar plexus. Which is that space between your belly button and the base of your sternum. So, essentially, raising your resonance more. So, more of these opportunities open, or let's say, become accessible to you. Good. Really nice. Bringing your attention now to that xiphoid process and about 3 inches or 7 centimeters directly beneath it in a straight line down towards the belly button. Clearing out the pain body. Yeah, it just takes a couple of seconds. We're doing this because your pain body has a memory of you before the frequency work was done. Just did a lot of it, actually. So it just makes it easier for you to integrate. Lovely. Everyone take a nice big breath in, holding it for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhaling with some sound. Huh. Holding your breath out for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathing normally. Good. And whenever you're ready, whether it's now or in a couple of minutes, blinking your eyes open and looking at something inanimate. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us for this YouTube Live. And I look forward to seeing what future or what story you create for yourself. All right, guys. Bye for now.